So, have you ever been watching a movie and gone, well, why didn't they just fix the problem like that? Of course, then there probably wouldn't be a movie. But tech pioneer VMware said, screw it, we're going to turn this idea into a podcast. So they drop a couple IT guys in the classic sci fi movies like Star Wars, The Matrix, and Terminator to plug the technology plot holes. It's called IT is Greater Than Sci Fi, and you can listen to it at vmware.com/radius/sci-fi or download from iTunes.
Hey, let's start the show.
For Thursday, December 22nd, 2016, welcome to This Is Only a Test, the official podcast of Tested.com.
Well, I hit my monitor once already.
Amazing. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of This Is Only a Test. This is our final episode of 2016. And if you are listening to this episode via audio only from our podcast feed, I strongly encourage you to check out our YouTube channel and watch the video because we're doing something different this week. We are recording this podcast in virtual reality. So
Wait,
joining me,
are?
we are.
I'm in the office. Where are you? No, I'm not.
Joining me for the special episode is, of course, my two co-hosts. To my virtual left, it's Jeremy Williams.
Hey, fellas.
And to my virtual right and your left on the screen, it's Kishore Hari.
Hello. Hey, what do I do with my hands?
I think you got to use them. Use them more than you ever would. Yeah, because
so we're all using touch. So
yes.
We have a few gestures at our disposal.
So
thumbs up and pointing mainly.
I'm going to paint a word picture for people out there who are just listening to the audio. And again, please watch the video, which hopefully is being recording right now. We are recording this in a program called BigScreen, and it's an app, VR app that we have in the Oculus store. And we are here not in the same space. We talked about this last week, potentially doing this at the office. We're doing this in our own homes, in our own comfortable setups, wearing Oculus Rifts and using Oculus Touch for our hands.
I may or may not be wearing pants.
We'll never know.
Awesome.
We'll never ever know.
It's not the same time either. We usually shoot this around 9 in the morning.
Yeah.
It is currently 9 at night, and we are not caffeinated at all.
I know.
What are you talking about? I have a 44-ounce Diet Coke on the table in front of me. The only unfortunate thing is that it's not tracked.
So BigScreen is a program that allows you not only to share desktops, but to also kind of be like a virtual chat room. This is just one of the environments. It's a theater, and I can actually grab the theater and move it around a little bit to show you what it looks like.
You're grabbing the camera.
Oh, I'm sorry, grabbing the camera. And
that's cool.
I just lost tracking a little bit because I moved my hands in front of the sensor. So there's a virtual camera, and we each, if you're watching, you see these rectangles, these gray rectangles in front of us. These are our virtual desktops. So in front of me here, which you guys can't see unless I do this, is my desktop, which I can have my notes and run OBS and capture this video. So Jeremy, what you have on your desktop, you're running media today, so you have video that we're going to watch because we're in a theater that Jeremy can project on the screen, and Kishore has our show notes.
I have the fabled show notes, which are in behind Norm's head now, that supposedly exist. And I'm running the timer and keeping us on track.
Now, this isn't our first rodeo in big screen or VR, but it still feels amazing. Like the sense of not only our individual presence in the room, but your presence in my virtual space feels completely believable.
To me, it's the spatial audio, and we've chosen avatars that kind of look like ourselves, but honestly, like they mimic certain behaviors, like the mouth moves when the person's talking, and we look in the direction of the person talking. This is pretty much what it's like to sit next to you every week.
You guys look about 20 years younger, though.
Yeah, so
do you. What are you talking about? I look this great right now.
Young Kishore. It's a little interesting because the Oculus actually doesn't track our eyes. And so I'm making eye contact with you, Kishore, but that's completely fake. It's what the computer program thinks that I'm looking at, and it thinks that I'm looking at your eyes, and so it has your eyes pointed.
My eyes.
I know, right there. But see what you just did there. When you moved your head, it had your eyes actually look toward my computer screen. And same thing with Jeremy. When I'm not looking at you, Jeremy, it looks and you look at me. Your eyes actually go toward my computer screen, my desktop.
But what if you look at me? If you look at me, do we look at each other?
Yeah, then it pops.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And our mouths move when we talk.
Yours is
sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Okay.
Kishore's is. I think mine is. Jeremy, you might be mute there.
What?
Yeah.
Talking.
Hey.
Nope.
All right.
Are you playing free ads on the screen? What are we watching here? We're watching like advertisements on YouTube. Here we go.
But hold on, we're gonna save that for just a second. Is there anything else we want to talk about this recording experience?
No, let's dive in. Let's get going.
All right.
This is the new normal, people.
I know. I promise. I mean, we may do more of these, but we promise people we do this. But this is not how the podcast is going to be going forward forever, unless I don't know. Unless you guys want it to.
I don't know. I kind of like not wearing pants during the podcast. It's pretty great.
Oh boy.
You can see me picking my ears, and that's really just me adjusting my headphones. All these gestures. Let's get into our first segment.
Oh, Jeremy. Right. I got to push a button.
Some things don't change.
That's hard to do. Here we go.
Pop culture news. There's only one really giant piece of pop culture news this week, and that is, of course, the new trailer for John Wick 2.
I was going to say, I saw Moana.
I don't even think we talked about Rogue One last week. It was just, why and how was that possible?
Wait, no, you were there. We talked about Rogue One.
We did talk about Rogue One.
What did we say?
We said it was coming out this week. We said that we were so excited to see it. Your world has changed.
Predictions? God, I can't even remember. I can't even remember life before Rogue One.
That's exactly what it's happened. Yeah, no, we talked a lot about Rogue One.
Was that your experience of Rogue One? You loved it that much?
I did. I loved it. I agreed with Will, who said this was his favorite Star Wars movie since 1983, far and away. And in fact, I think this might be even better than some of those.
Wow. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to flip the camera around and show people that we're going to talk about Rogue One while we have the Rogue One trailer playing behind us. All of us in this room saw Rogue One, I presume. Yeah,
I've only seen it once. Both of you have seen it twice already, right?
Two times.
Hold on. 2 times.
One.
Yeah.
Two times.
Just a one.
2 times.
Yeah, pull those thumbs in.
Excuse me. Now, Kishore, you and I talked a little about it today because we did a recording at the office. But Jeremy, what did you think?
Well, we're not getting into spoiler territory yet.
Not yet.
Okay. I was very, very pleasantly surprised. I liked Force Awakens. I was not blown away by Force Awakens. I thought that this movie surpassed all expectations, especially on the acting front. I was surprised, like for a Star Wars movie, the acting in it, on several accounts was phenomenal.
Are you talking about specifically
Jyn Erso,
yep.
Her father, all of the band of brothers that she gets together with, all of those characters I was invested in, and I felt like they believed in the characters they were playing, and it wasn't just showing up and being a clown on a CG set.
Right.
I loved especially the robot.
K2SO was one of the best things about this movie. Alan Tudyk just knows how to act like that character.
I know.
I
mean, can we talk about spoilers at this point? Should we not do spoilers? It's very difficult to talk about this movie.
When should people tune back into the podcast?
Oh my
How
goodness.
far should they skip ahead?
Let's see. let's give them. We'll do a 5-minute countdown. I got the clock going.
All right, we got 5 minutes to go spoiler heavy on Rogue One, starting now.
Now.
Okay,
right, Jeremy.
I was shocked that everybody dies.
I mean, really?
That is yes, because that is not Star Wars. Like, that is what sets this movie apart from all of the Star Wars films more than anything else.
Well, you knew that you couldn't really do a follow-up with the characters.
No, absolutely.
You knew, because there's an established canon of episode 4, 5, and 6, and it wouldn't make sense within the continuity why any of these characters wouldn't appear and why the rebellion wouldn't refer to them. They had to write out of that. And I guess maybe the easiest way to write out of that is to close the story with this and to maybe be bold for a Disney film, but to kill all the heroes.
I think you're absolutely right, but it is bold, and I didn't expect it, given that it was Disney, Star Wars, and a big budget.
I don't know. The whole time before this movie, I was saying I'm expecting a dark movie. I'm expecting a dark movie, and the code of what I was saying is I thought everyone was going to die. And the only difference is some of them died in warlike ways. I actually thought when I saw the trailer reveal of Vader that he was going to wipe them out, that he was going to be the one that killed them. And
I'm actually glad that didn't happen. There was actually there's almost a Fifth Element vibe to that. I'm sorry for moving this camera a bit. There it is. The heroes in this movie never ever meet any of the villains or in the original trilogy. They never meet Tarkin, and they never meet Leia, and they never meet Vader. Like, isn't that interesting?
Yeah, I never thought about that.
Right?
You know,
and I like that. I like that they had their own adventure. It was an important part of the story, but it wasn't in any way interfering with like changing the continuity of the original trilogy and what those characters that we know and how they behaved.
Does this VR stance make it look like I'm thinking?
Yes.
Or like I'm stroking my beard?
Yeah.
Because that's my reaction to that thought. I never really put that together, that they had never seen any of the major characters from 4, 5, 6. I have to say, though, this is a beautiful movie. It's technically very beautiful. I was very skeptical of stormtroopers on a beach or AT-ATs on these different planets. The planets they gave us were very lived in. I really liked Jeddah a lot. It felt like it was sort of vibrant, but still kind of like crummy in a Star Wars kind of way. I completely bought into Felicity Jones acting, as you alluded to, Jeremy. There's just a couple bits that kept it away from it being the best Star Wars movie I'd seen since '83, as you put it. And to me, there's one word that sums that up, and it's Tarkin.
Yeah,
for me too, man. For me too. And I don't know what they were thinking. The only thing I can think of, and I think I just mentioned this to Norm earlier, is that maybe it looked better when they were making it on the small screen, and then when you put it up on the big screen, suddenly all the imperfections are laid bare.
No, ILM, Lucasfilm, they have big theaters in-house. They must have seen it in 3D in all the ways possible. I think the technology just isn't there yet. I don't think. I mean, can you name of any CG character fully a representation of a real human that looked better and interacted better with other real actors? Put him in the scene.
No, never. That's why they shouldn't have done it.
You say the technology isn't there, but at that point, I mean, it's the uncanny valley. It literally, we're unable to get out of that dip of the uncanny valley. But that's going to be a process. Like, it's not going to be a switch. Do you think it's going to be a switch?
No. Dude, we were tortured by the prequels. They did so much wrong. They should have played it safe with this, and they did so much right with Rogue One. It surprises me that they took this chance, because there's been no evidence that this could be successful.
So
now, if they had just taken the chance of just Leia being the reveal at the end and not Tarkin, it would have been fine as a risk.
Yeah.
But I think it's the Tarkin as such a critical character in this movie.
I think it was a bold thing to do. We talked about it on the spoiler cast. There's been word that George Lucas and liked this because he was bold with Phantom Menace and wanted to incorporate new technologies And
we got 10 seconds left, so if people are chiming,
so they
are
did
coming
that
back
here.
in.
Wow, I want to extend it. If you're back,
okay,
everyone.
If you're back, give us another 2 minutes.
Yeah, no, I'm sure they came right back at that point. I'm sure they came right back here.
You're gonna need another 5 minutes before we can go into non-spoiler territory.
5 minutes, just give them a couple minutes.
I disagree about Leia. I don't think she should have even been there. I think it should have all been either new actresses, not in Leia's part, but in Tarkin's, a new actor would have been fine. I could forgive a new actor playing that role, but for Leia, just a back of the body, that would have been great. Just like maybe a reflection in a window, something to indicate that it was her.
What did you think about the end being heavier on the fan service than the beginning? The first 2/3 really make it their own, almost like unless you knew it was Star Wars, there weren't any direct ties, and then it goes pretty heavy on the fan service the last third.
I thought it was great.
I thought it was great too. I was really caught off guard by the fact that this movie ended where in the timeline it did.
Yeah.
I had no expectation that it was going to end like a half hour before New Hope starts.
Right. I think it was bolder for it to do that than it would be to kill
I thought
everyone.
that was a bold choice, and so you can call that fan service, but I didn't mind that level of fan service.
I thought the Darth Vader stuff at the end was pretty heavy-handed, because you don't see him use those Force powers ever in the next 3 movies.
He deflects Han's blast.
Yeah,
and
Han's
takes
blaster.
His blaster.
One blaster, one time. He walked through that corridor and ripped 4 or 5 blasters out of people's hands, threw people against the ceiling. It was definitely more Force powers than you ever see him use in the following years to come.
But it was what you imagined. Was it what you imagined his presence to be?
It was a follow-up from the prequels. I mean, that's what you expect him to be able to do given the prequels, but not given the subsequent films.
I mean, when he fights Luke, he uses Force powers. He's pretty powerful.
Yeah, but it's. I understand what he means. It's less over the top when he's fighting.
Yes.
All right. Okay. We should start to wind down Spoiler Town.
All right.
Just one last comment.
Okay.
The Asian characters.
Yeah. I
would die to see a spin-off of just their characters in some sort of spin-off of this spin-off. That would be
prequel of a prequel.
Yes, I want that.
Sure.
I'm okay with them not having enough, like not enough, but not having too much backstory for every character. I think we got just the right amount.
Yeah.
Hey, if this is a gateway for wide audiences to find out about Donnie Yen, then this movie is super successful.
Right? High five, Jeremy.
I'm included in that group because I Googled him as soon as I got home.
Oh, really?
There it is.
Well, you got to watch Iron Monkey. I think you start with that. You can skip Blade 2, and
you can skip Blade 2 for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, and then you can go to. The essentials are Iron Monkey and Ip Man, Part 1 and maybe Part 2. Definitely not Part 3. All right.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
We're missing the biggest point of the whole movie. I expected apologies first minute we got on this show, guys.
Wait, what? For what?
I think about maybe a year ago, we were offering hypotheses about what could set this movie apart, and one of us suggested there'd be no crawl.
Ah, interesting.
Oh.
He was shot down.
He was shot down by 2 hosts that aren't here, right?
Yeah, no crawl. I don't think that's a spoiler. And it didn't have the Star Wars logo.
That's right. Or the music.
Yeah. It was also the only Star Wars movie, and again, not a spoiler, that had the names of the planets, I believe. Is that true? On the bottom left-hand corner?
That's right. Yeah, I think
that's right.
Probably right.
It had names of every location except the one in the middle with the lava, which I don't want to say.
Remind me again. We got the music at the end. We got the closing music, though, right? At the end of the movie, the standard Star Wars closing music.
Yeah, feels right.
I don't know. I don't remember. I think
I don't remember. I saw it twice and I don't remember.
Yeah, because in my head I was still gushing with a glee,
buzzing.
Yeah. All right. That does it. I think we're going to keep the pop culture segment of this podcast short this week because there's a lot to go over. It is our last podcast of the year. A lot of people traveling next week. I think I'm going to pull up an old episode next week, another one from the archives. But we want to do a year in review. So
I think Jeremy wants you to pull up the episode where we say no crawl and shame him, so he can be vindicated.
That'd be great.
Let's go to technology news as the year in review. It's a lot of fun doing this in VR.
This is the most dancing I've ever done during this podcast.
It's because you're by yourself, and yet you're in the same room as people. It's very strange. There's a level of self-awareness that goes away, and then a newfound level of self-awareness that reappears.
Yeah, sorry, that was me grabbing a Diet Coke.
I'm gonna look at Kishore. Kishore is drinking a Diet Coke right now in VR.
In two hands. Yep.
It's like a ghost Diet Coke.
I didn't want to put down. Good. Every time I put down my hands, I like kind of lose them, so I have to keep them up now.
Are we going to talk about our favorite things of the year?
I think we should.
Is that what we're doing?
Yeah. So I think we should start with the best. So I came up with some categories for us.
Okay.
And you guys haven't really had a chance to think about this.
No.
So I'm going to kind of surprise you on the fly, and we're going to try to put up some of your favorite items in the background, maybe trailers of such. So this is going to be a little bit of expert Googling going to happen now.
All right.
What was the favorite thing you watched this year?
Now, I want to let people know, because they can see now the show notes, and maybe this will spoil a little bit. What you have in the show notes is best watch experience. And I read that as, what was your best smartwatch experience? And so I didn't think of it that way.
You're nuts, man.
So
best
maybe
smartwatch experience.
Best, I know. Why would you lead off with that, Kishore? Best media experiences. Why don't you go first, since you brought up the topic?
So I have a few under the radar picks, because I think in these year-end wrap-up conversations, we hear a lot of the same things. You're going to hear a lot of Stranger Things. You're going to hear a lot of Westworld. And so I wanted to bring up a few things that, people may have either forgotten or just sort of, ignored. So my TV pick is Broad City, which did really well on Comedy Central. And there's this one episode, it's season 3, episode 3. It'll be really hard to find. But they did this episode where Vanessa Williams comes in as a guest star. And one of the characters basically tries to emulate high fashion. And she's wearing like a cutoff midriff, and she colors in her midriff to sort of fit in at work. So she's wearing more responsible wear, and then transitions into the bathroom for my favorite TV scene of 2016. Yeah, it is really weird. Really? I'll actually bring it. I'll bring up the little snippet. If actually, Jeremy, if you search Broad City, shit.
Wow. I don't know if we're gonna watch it together during the podcast.
Can you hear me typing?
Not really. No.
When I do,
the second one.
Okay. This one?
The second one. That's the fourth.
This one.
Yes.
It's your favorite TV
Here
moment.
We go.
All right, we're gonna watch it along.
It's short.
Yes. I shit.
This was it. It was really random. And Broad City is this kind of, it's very crass humor, but I think it's one of the more hilarious under the radar shows, comedy shows out there.
All right.
All right.
How about your favorite movie this year, Kishore?
Oh, without a doubt, the movie that made me cry and give my son a hug immediately after I watched it was Kubo and the Two Strings. And I think not only was it an incredible story, but I think visually what they did, melding sort of the stop motion and the animation together, and the fact that this movie started with like basically pieces of paper in motion, and that sort of blend of old and new by far and away made it my favorite pick of the year.
Wow.
And then any
was there a close second for that?
Yeah, I feel I watched Moonlight, which is like the movie that probably is the most notable movie I saw that was like a piece of art that I really thought that was incredible. The last 30 minutes of Moonlight is a tough but really, important thing to watch, and I'll look for that for Oscar season. But there ain't no way I'm watching that again. I mentioned this last week. I really like that movie, Hello, My Name is Doris, even though it came out in 2015. I like those sweet independent movies that make you smile and like warm your heart a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think La La Land is probably the one I'm most looking forward to that I haven't seen yet. That's still on my list. The one and this is almost shamedly, the one I had the most fun at in the movie theater was Deadpool. And I saw that with Norm. We saw it at a draft house and I was just laughing my butt off.
Yeah.
And I had no expectations for it. And I think that's why I think I had the most fun with that.
All right. I'm going to go to Jeremy.
Can you put the show notes back up, Kishore?
What were your favorite TV show of the year?
That's easy. That would be
Stranger Things.
Stranger Things, yeah.
Yeah, and why is it Stranger Things?
Because it's got everything. It's got like Spielberg and Goonies and 80s. And I feel like the 80s fad is maybe it's reached its peak. And I was just happy to see such an amazing show despite that. It took me back to that era of when I was a kid. It's not necessarily the best era of filmmaking, but it's the most nostalgic for me. So personally, I loved it for that reason. I thought it was also still very inventive, a little bit scary, but also just, the fact that period is now, you can now do period pieces about back then. And it's not just the hairstyles, it's also the fact that there's no cell phones and these kids are riding their bikes in places and they actually are in danger because, they're not in communication with their families in a way that just wouldn't happen these days. I think is fascinating. Loved it. Just absolutely loved it. Can't wait for season 2.
Have you rewatched it at all since your initial run through?
No. Have you?
No, I'm really curious how well it'll hold up.
No. Huh.
Because with suspense, shows like this, like, can you watch them again when you know sort of the outcome? I don't know.
I think so, just as much as any movie. Yeah, certainly. But these shows are such a time commitment. That's the only problem for me. I'm not sure I would be willing to do that.
What about your favorite?
I'm not sure.
Go ahead.
I'm not sure I'm willing to watch this alone again. I think that's the thing. This was an underrated, scary adventure.
Oh, did it freak you out?
Yeah, a couple times. I remember you talking about how you couldn't watch this by yourself in a couple moments because of how scary it was. Maybe that was a different Jeremy.
I don't know. I loved it. I thought Winona Ryder was surprisingly great at this character that she, just seemed to dive into. I love the kids. And then watch. What's the girl who plays 11? I forget her real name, but watching the interviews with them afterwards, they all seem very modest and charming. It's just a good cast.
I gotta turn off some audio. I apologize because I'm capturing my desktop audio. I'm getting Slack messages.
Did you just drop your hand, Kishore?
I did drop my hand, but I want to bring up what I know is one of Jeremy's favorite things, just to wrap up the 11 piece. What? That's 11. Or just to wrap up the 11 thing. This is 11 rapping Nicki Minaj on Jimmy Fallon.
Oh my god!
Let me pull this up because you can't play the audio.
Oh, okay.
While you pull it up, I'm going to share. I think my favorite TV experience this year, it's Westworld. I was hyped for it.
I'm shocked.
Leading up to it, and I don't think it's a perfect show, but it's really close for me. And the actual experience of watching it week by week, I enjoyed tremendously. I know binging there's a lot of appeal to binging, but I really love the ritual of an appointment TV show, and one that gives me time to think about it and to talk to other people about it and to annoy you guys out there about it. But it's something I look forward to.
Jeremy, did you finish?
that would be my second favorite show. I love that too.
No, but did you finish watching it?
No, I'm not finished with it. I'm still 2 behind.
All right, here's the clip that they're talking about.
We're gonna take turns reading a card. And then we count to 3.
I'm gonna fast forward.
Somebody said
that in 3rd grade, the fire alarm startled me.
Nope, more.
That's basically what happened.
Right, here we go.
Whose turn?
French fries on my hamburger.
How do you turn off the
crazy story
in big screen?
Can I read?
Yeah, can you?
Can you?
All right, go, Mike.
Oh, I don't know that.
I'm just gonna move it.
Okay. Oh my god, hold on. Pull up in that monster automobile gangster with a bad that came from Sri Lanka. Yeah, I'm in a tongue color of Willy Wonka. You can be the king, but watch the queen counter. First things first, I'll eat your brains. Then I'm gonna start rocking gold teeth and fangs. Cause that's what a monster do. Heads off the front line, that's a monster do. Mine's uppy heel, that's a monster shoe. Young Money is a rasta and a monster crew. And I'm full of the face. I do a face, I ain't noticing my money.
Wow.
What happened?
Kishore stood up. I think he stood up. He got really into it.
I did stand up.
All right, well, that actually segues well into probably my actual favorite media of 2016 for me. And I'm late to the party, but my favorite discovery of the year has to be the Hamilton soundtrack. Which I am totally and utterly obsessed and in love with. I've always been a fan of hip hop, but on a very certain brand, and that album I think is a hallmark in the history of the genre.
Oh, you gotta put up a little Hamilton now if you're gonna talk about it.
There's nothing on YouTube from it. Like everything gets taken down.
Put up Lin-Manuel Miranda Carpool Karaoke because he does the Lafayette song in it.
Oh wow! You pulled that. You had that already. Nice.
Carpool.
Yeah.
What?
He does the carpool karaoke. Okay. While you pull that up, let's go with my favorite movie of the year. It was a really long year, and there were movies that came out this year that in my brain don't feel like they came out in 2016. Like if I had to think and realize that Civil War came out this year. Even Deadpool, and there was an X-Men movie this year. It was terrible.
That's right.
Right? Like
it was really bad.
And so I mean, it's the same reason that a lot of movies that come out toward the end of the year are get nominated for Oscars because people have short-term memories. But Arrival has stuck with me for a long time, and it's one that
still haven't seen it.
Oh God. It's one worth recommending. It's one worth watching. And as of right now, I mean, there's still a week and a half left of the year, and I really want to see La La Land. But that one's up there, and it might be first place. So we ready to play this clip? Let's do it. Let's play the clip.
It's a long clip. Where's the good part?
No, just at the beginning. Facing Hamilton.
Okay.
West Side. Yeah, I feel nervous enough about hosting the Tonys, let alone having to drive around the city. I don't know. I don't know what I'd do if you weren't here. I really appreciate it.
I'm at your service.
So speaking of
I'm at your service, sir.
Do you mind if we listen to some music?
No, let's do it.
Are you sure?
Yeah, let's go.
I wonder what's on there. How does a bastard orphan, son of a whore and a Scotsman, dropped in the middle of a forgotten spot?
All right, we might have to take it down at this point.
Providence and poverty.
So you are a massive fan of Hamilton, though, Norm, right?
Yeah.
And
also,
you're going to see it this year.
I know. Next, in 2017. It is one of my great regrets that I think I had the opportunity to watch it in New York and did not. And it will be a lifelong regret. Let's move on to Jeremy, your favorite movie of the year?
Oh, Rogue One.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Definitely.
No hesitation.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved Kubo too. Don't get me wrong, and I even liked Moana to some degree, but no, I definitely Rogue One.
Okay. I mean, I think to make that call, not being as prepared as we should have, I would have wished to have seen a list of all the movies I saw in 2016. So I could actually think about each one.
Let me reach into your brain.
Yeah, reach into my brain. There it goes.
And grab. Yeah, you still wish you saw Trolls. That's what I'm finding.
Nope. Was there a Pixar movie this year?
Yeah,
Finding Dory. Yeah, that was all right. It was good.
Hey, it was good. Hey, I have a good one for you, Norm.
Okay.
For our next question, what was your favorite tested shoot that you went on this year?
Oh, that is a loaded question.
You mean an easy, like a softball question?
No, it's not. It's not at all. It's. I think it's impossible. Maybe impossible.
What's the first one that popped in your head?
I mean, obviously the trip to the Arctic, because that's a once in a lifetime experience also. But that wasn't my favorite shoot. And I could say like a trip to Australia, because that was amazing, and we got to see some incredible things, going to Peter Jackson's pop collection, hanging out at Weta, shooting videos there. That was amazing too. But I could also say like, the Monster Palooza earlier this year, or the RPF party. I love those shoots.
I'm Thomas.
And I don't know. I mean, for one single video to be my favorite video that we shot this year, it may have to be Totoro at New York Comic Con.
That did seem like a delightful experience.
Yeah.
Plus, wasn't there a guy that came up to you while you're filming about proposing to his girlfriend?
Yeah.
And getting Adam to sign a box?
Yeah.
I feel like that's a hidden story.
And he cosplayed. He was cosplaying as a Game of Thrones character. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's the Totoro video. We're not going to get content ID'd for this because it's our content. I don't know. What were your favorite tested videos this year? Just even ones that you weren't actively participating in.
That is a big question.
I think you could well agree that your favorite tested experience was maybe the live show this year.
Oh, there's no question. Just because I put so much time and energy into that, and I got to see a lot of the rewards of that, right on stage.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, this is going to be an obscure one, maybe, but during San Diego Comic-Con, we were on a boat with Kevin. Like Kevin Smith had like a boat party that Adam was on.
Yeah.
And Adam unveiled his Fifth Element gun.
The ZF-1.
The ZF-1, and I got to hold the ZF-1 for a moment there. And man, holding that prop was probably my favorite like obscure tested thing that I did all year. It was just kind of bizarre and cool. Yeah. I mean, there's so many. Like, I got to go, like a DeLorean that drove itself this year.
That was incredible.
When we launched the weather balloon, there's this moment when we got back into the car to chase it down, and the car wouldn't start.
Oh my god!
Which, upon reflection, is one of the funnier moments of the year.
Yeah. So here's a little behind the scenes. Kishore's talking about two things. The weather balloon thing. We launched a weather balloon with Kishore, which was also one of my highlights of the year because of the effort you put into it, how everything came together. We worked with a team at Sanford Night Crew Labs to launch it, but it was a 3 a.m. launch. So we make it out there and we watch the team put the balloon together. We have this payload that's gorgeous that Frank built and Adam painted. And then we're behind schedule because once it goes up, it starts hauling. The wind takes it, right? And we need to track it down, and they've mounted all these sensors onto the car, and we get into the car, and we've been using the headlamps on the car for lighting some of the shoot, and we start the car, and it really is that Marty McFly moment of crap, it won't start.
Yeah, no Libyans came driving into the parking lot right then, which would have been an interesting experience, but we had to like kind of ninja our way. Our producer Adam Isaac basically like sweet talked some security guard into jumping the car.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of interesting.
We were in full work the problem mode.
Yeah. That turned into almost like it was like 20 hours from when we started that shoot to when it ended. So it was a pretty epic run. Jeremy, how about you? What was your favorite tested shoot or video experience of the year?
Without a list in front of me, it's hard to say. I actually think I might have the privilege of saying that my favorite shoot is still ahead of us this year because we're shooting something tomorrow that is the beginning of something new, and I'm really excited about that.
Yeah.
And from what I've seen, it's actually going to be a really good episode of what this is, and so I'm most excited about that. I think I'm going to be very proud of it.
All right. You want to do some lightning categories?
Sure. Man, this feels intense, but yes.
All right. So next up, we all took a ton of trips this year, both personal and for work.
Yep.
What was your favorite journey that you guys went on?
Oh, that's easy for me. The train trip to Denver, and not because I went to Denver, but because I took a train trip. It was one of the greatest experiences in years for me. I think I just like trains more than I thought I did.
Yeah. I have to go back to the Arctic trip. And
Sure.
I know we still have a bunch of videos to release on that. Something we actually didn't shoot video of, and was just how scary it was trying to leave the trip at the end. We were all physically, mentally exhausted from this incredible journey, 2.5 weeks up there. But on the very last day, it was turbulent waters, and we needed to go at Resolute, which is a small town. The small town in Canada that has an airstrip and an airport. But to get to the town, we need to go on our Zodiacs and make it all the way to the town, which it's barely a town. It's like a couple streets, and it was all snowy and very cold, and there were turbulent waters, and the Zodiacs almost couldn't land, and then also the plane almost couldn't land onto the icy runway. The plane had to land, drop off the next batch of passengers, and then we had to get on, and it almost felt like the end of Lost when we're getting off the island.
So my favorite journey is my new favorite con of the year. Was going to Dragon Con, and I had this experience of trying to cosplay, and I went as Mayor McCheese, Mayor McCheese has made an appearance on this podcast. I'm trying to bring up the picture from Dragon Con. That just summed up my experience. I was on a ton of science panels, but it was the cosplaying experience at Dragon Con that was my favorite thing of the year. Here it is. So let me go up. This is me like after a full day of walking, or actually not a full day. This was about 45 minutes of walking around with Mayor McCheese on. And I'm just like soaked from the top of my head here all the way down to like the middle of my chest. And I'd been watching those, Adam, incognitos for years, and I never sort of understood it until I was in this mode. And I think I explained it on the podcast. I've never high-fived that many people in my life. It was just thrilling to inhabit a character that brought up all this nostalgia. Like everywhere I went, it was like Mayor McCheese, just like people screaming at me. And I've never had such a thrilling cosplay experience, and it totally got me hooked.
Have you cosplayed
doing more of it
a lot before?
Yeah, I mean, not seriously, and even this was, kind of tongue in cheek. But I never gotten that to the point of like inhabiting the character where it was so much fun just to walk around. And this was that moment for me. Was
it helpful to have your head and face completely obscured?
No, I don't think that made a difference. It was like that I was this weird character. And, it was September, like a couple months before election time. So I printed up these Mayor McCheese 2016 cards that I would hand out. And I acted like a politician walking around the con, and which was just like a bizarre kind of character to inhabit. It was delightful.
Awesome. Now thinking about, because Jeremy, you had pulled up the list of tested videos. And if you bring up that screen again, if you go to our YouTube page and just look at the videos, we shot over 400 videos, or published over 400 videos this year, with more that we shot that we haven't even aired yet. And just going through some of them, like I'm just gonna call it some highlights. Let's go back. I don't know if you can go back to the top, and I can just like every video here has a story behind it, from what was happening in the production to something we tried differently in that production to the editing process. But like, we're proud of almost every single one of these pieces, minus the podcast that we do every week, not in VR. But you had like, oh my God, like Ripley, my dog, getting a costume that Frank and Bill made, to
look at this one down at the center.
Oh God, yeah,
barrel row
yeah.
in a plane.
That relatively recent, but flying in a plane with a new friend, Hoagie De La Plante, and going up in the plane. Let me actually flip the camera around, and him taking us up there and teaching us physics of planes, aerodynamics, but by demonstrating it, by stalling the plane, and then actually, what you don't see in the video is actually fly the plane for like 15 seconds. I have my hand on the stick, and it is trippy. Yeah, something, and it's an open cockpit too. Love that. So yeah, we get to do a lot of fun things, and it's a lot of fun experiences, and hope you guys out there enjoy all these experiences that we get to relay.
On just one thing on that note, this is your first full year kind of helming everything. I couldn't imagine a better year for Tested. So bravo to you.
Yeah.
And that's the last sappy moment of this podcast. All right, you ready for the next question?
Sure.
Favorite product of the year? Favorite product?
Yeah,
I have a hard time with this one, actually, because it's definitely not my MacBook.
Hey, Jeremy, are you holding it in both of your hands?
I suppose so. I suppose it's got to be VR related, and the touch controllers complete the Oculus experience. So, yeah, I'll go with the Oculus Touch. Why not?
Yeah, why not? I mean, you've been such a huge advocate of VR forever, before the Kickstarter. And one of the very first Kickstarters backers, the reason we got that DK1 in, that we did the videos about, the reason that we get to cover VR the way we do, the reason a lot of people out there are watching this VR podcast right now, maybe even the reason Will is not here and running food,
right,
is because of your enthusiasm, and to have that, the first chapter of this VR experience, come to fruition, to go to Oculus Connect, to hear Michael Abrash talk about the future and the dream of virtual reality. It must feel gratifying as a fan perspective.
Oh, absolutely. But it also doesn't feel like the beginning or the end of anything. It kind of feels like a part of this continuum that began a few years ago with the Kickstarter.
And but it's got to be regardless of it being the best product or when it was released in the year, it's got to represent your favorite product, like the category.
Yeah,
like it's emblematic.
Yeah, but it's like, but as with anything, once we get a taste of what's possible, we see the holes in it and we want more and more and more. Now I can't wait for haptics, and I'm sure when haptics come out, and more than Rumble, that will be my favorite product, or a wider field of view, or just other levels of immersion. It's just this brand new thing. I feel like, we're now at the beginning of something like this, like maybe the PC Junior was my favorite piece of technology in 1984, but it certainly wasn't my favorite computer I ever owned, or what I even think of as being the PC experience. So I feel like we're at the very beginning of a nascent kind of hobby and industry.
What about you, Kishore?
For me, it's going to show up in my favorite things video next week. It's the Amplify. Though I know we talked so much about wireless mesh routers, but I didn't realize I had a problem until I was on this podcast one day, and Jeremy was like, when I put in the Eero, I don't have to think about my router anymore. And when I stopped to think about it, I think about my router way too much. Like rebooting it, I get a lot of texts from the wife about the router. That stopped everything.
Yeah.
That stopped as soon as I installed this product. And it's not that it has every feature that I want. There's things missing from it, but it just made like a little part of my daily life better, which is everything that I want from tech. I don't want it to dominate my life. I just want it to, make certain things that I do a little easier, and this really, really fit that category.
I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna talk about 3 products. One, the product I wish was my favorite and the best product of the year, isn't because I don't have access to it yet, and that's Sonic fiber internet. Now this may change. I reserved the right. I put this in because it may change because I do have my appointment now set for next week, which is still in the confines of this year. And so once I get set up next week, I reserve the right to say Sonic fiber internet is my favorite thing this year. And I can give a glimpse of that because I have a relative who just moved into a house not too far away from where I live, and it's a couple blocks away, and she got Sonic. And I went to a housewarming party, and the first thing I did was break out my phone, connect to her Wi-Fi, like open the closet, type in the Wi-Fi on that on the router, and do a speed test. And she was getting.
You broke into her Wi-Fi?
No,
I didn't ask her for the password.
She understood. I asked where the router was. I walked in, opened the closet, it was like long 18-string password, typed it in my phone, open speed test, and this is just over Wi-Fi. It's not even wired. It was 200 megabits down and 150 up, and I was like, wow, that's I was looking forward to it. So hopefully next week I can say it's Sonic. And then my 2 other answers are split between what I think is actually the best product, complete feature-wise, purchasing decision-wise of the year versus my favorite. And I'll go with the best first, and I think it's the Phantom 4 Pro.
Really? Recent.
And I think the Phantom 4 Pro, it really reinvigorated my love of quadcopters and drones. And the fact that it came the same year as the Phantom 4, but feels like a successor to the Phantom 4. And it also addressed all the problems I had with the Phantom 4 and was amazing to fly. I'm in love with the footage I was able to shoot with it. And I would easily recommend it for someone who's ready for a $1,500 quadcopter.
On that topic, I would say I completely appreciate why you like the Phantom 4 and
Pro.
The Pro, because you need that perfect image quality. You're about the robust distance that it can perform. Personally, though, the Mavic would be my preferred quad, and that also came out this year. And it's for just completely different reasons. I think that I want the convenience factor of the collapsibility. Just to be able to throw it in a bag and not have to worry about a case and having a nice compact controller. I love all of that they brought this year. So I mean, DJI covered 2 really interesting markets this year,
and 3 if you consider the high end Inspire. And I can say that going to the Arctic, not having a Phantom 4, but going there, and I've said this before, going there along with someone who did use a Phantom 4, who got better footage than me, even though I had the Inspire with a better camera, because they had the Phantom 4 and was more versatile, more reliable. That turned my brain around. So the fact that I came back and then they released an upgrade that addressed all my issues I had with the Phantom 4, that's why I think that's the most complete product. But that's not my favorite piece of technology this year. And my favorite one, I know it might be controversial, it's the Glowforge.
No, you can't say that. You're going to get in trouble.
I know.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that.
Trouble.
But
no,
you guys have seen us use it in the office.
I feel like he just poured salt in the wound of thousands of people.
I know. I can't say it because I know so many people. Everyone basically. No one has a Glowforge yet, and everyone deserves a Glowforge, and especially people who backed it early. And it sucks that they don't have one now. And we're in a very privileged position where we have access to one. But even though it's not a complete, the feature set isn't complete.
Yep.
I love using it. And even though I've had access to laser cutters before at Makerspaces and even in Adam's shop, I'm using this one a lot more.
I feel you, dude. I just don't think that you can call it a product yet. I don't feel like you can say that you have a product.
Okay. Well, then I rescind that pick.
That's a good call. You know what the actual answer that you should have said is that DeLorean model at your house. That is the best thing you bought this year.
That's a toy. And actually I bought it last year. It shipped this year, but that's just a toy. It's gorgeous. It is. It's the 6th scale DeLorean model.
It's just a toy.
That's a collectible.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so maybe let's go with Sonic. Crossing fingers crossed, everything goes well next week.
All right, we only have a couple more things to go over. Ready for the next to last category?
Yeah.
Or third to last category?
All right.
Yep.
Did you read anything this year that you loved?
I didn't read anything that I loved, you know. I read Red Shirts this year on the advice of my friends on this podcast.
you just keep your mouth shut about Red Shirts.
And I enjoyed it. I actually think it would be a better movie than it was a book in some ways. I don't know. But no, I didn't read any books that I loved. What about you guys?
I loved All the Birds in the Sky by Charlie Jane, which shows up in my favorite things. I mean, it's hard to argue with the Dark Forest, all of that stuff. Was that this year?
That was all this year. Three Body Problem was this year.
Three Body Problem was such an interesting science fiction book that I read. But you know the one that I still like would go back to and I reread it. I read Ready Player One again on the plane on the way home from India. That was just awesome. I loved it.
Oh, right on, dude.
Is Norm's hands on his hips? Is
yeah,
he like,
Norm hates that book.
Upset at me about Ready Player One.
I don't know what his deal is. I think maybe someone he knows didn't like the book, and that influenced his opinion of it.
No, not true. I didn't like it because I didn't like it. I don't know. It's not a great question for me to answer because I didn't read as many books this year as I wanted to.
You can answer with a comic book too.
I didn't read as many comic books this year as I wanted to.
Well, I think this is a good New Year's resolution for us here on This Is Only a Test.
Yeah.
The next one is really for Jeremy more so than anyone else.
It's below the fold. I can't see.
Well, I'm not showing it to you. It's going to be a surprise. Ready?
All right. Yep.
What's your favorite pinball story from this year?
Oh, wait. We got to play an intro.
Well, that's not fair.
Come on. Do you have it? Do you have it queued up?
Yeah, I got it. I just got to look under my headset. Here it is.
I love the go to the headset.
I'm a pinball nerd. Pin. Just the right point. Finally, pinball. That makes me very happy.
Ooh.
This is me. This is me playing pinball.
So two things, and I'll make this brief. I did the Pinsin this year, and so that's going to be my favorite part of the pinball this year. VR came out, and then we had a pinball game in VR released on the Oculus store, and I built this little tiny pin, like the first 8 inches of a pinball cabinet that you could stand at and play VR pinball at, and it feels like the real thing. And that was a blast. That was untested. It ended up getting a lot of attention. I went on Leo Laporte's show and showed it off there. I had certain private parties who purchased several of them, and it was a blast. So that's my personal pinball contribution of the year, and I feel good about that. But the probably my another good one was just this past weekend. I was in a pinball tournament, and I placed 6th out of about 80 people. So that was a huge accomplishment for me personally. I had a good time.
This is like a San Francisco citywide tournament, right?
Something like there were people there from 8 or 10 states. So it was,
wow.
It was people came in from all over. But as far as pinball goes, I mean, like the sad thing about the industry right now is that prices are really skyrocketing, and it's a scary thing. Like they were already thousands of dollars, and now the pinball manufacturers appear to be experiencing some level of, greed or something where they want to, see how high they can get those prices, and it's getting a little scary. But we'll see what happens with the industry next year.
Mm-hmm. The next question is really for another. It's really for one of us, but I'll need your help. It's the best science stories of the year.
Oh,
fun!
Time for another intro, possibly. Wait, hold on. I might need to do an ad read before we get to Kishore's favorite science story of the year. I also want to thank the other sponsor of this week's episode of This Is Only a Test, and it's VMware's podcast. IT is greater than sci-fi. again, VMware dropped a couple IT guys into sci-fi stories, Men in Black style, with old school veteran and a young hotshot into some of the most classic sci-fi stories like Star Wars, Matrix, Terminator, and Tron. And they go in there and expose some of Hollywood's biggest technology plot holes while having fun at the original writers and directors' expense. Plus, they got a great supporting cast, including a great Jeff Goldblum impression. You got to listen to it. Again, the podcast is IT is Greater Than Sci-Fi. All 8 episodes are live right now at vmware.com/radius/sci-fi. You can also download from iTunes, SoundCloud, and the other usual suspects. Thank them for supporting our podcast. Again, then, let's play a music cue.
Now it's time for a moment of science. I put my hands through my hair, and that looked good on camera. I'm pretty excited about that. So this is the year, even though the discovery was made in 2015, that we got the answer to the question that's kept us all up at night for many years. What is the sound of 2 black holes colliding?
Oh,
what? That's how we found gravitational waves, is 2 black holes were circling each other, and that created a ripple in space-time that rung a bell on the Earth, and we heard that sound, and it validated general relativity. You can't have a bigger moment in physics than what happened this year. It was a testament to the work of so many physicists around the world, and the efforts that the National Science Foundation makes, the bets they make on basic science and research. It was one of the most amazing celestial phenomena ever recorded in human history.
But it validated research. It validated theories. It wasn't a new discovery.
No, it had been theorized.
Yeah.
And it's a consequence of general relativity, which some Albert guy came up with. And, validating one of Einstein's theories is it's an unbelievable achievement. And I think it just inspired so many people to talk about science and physics this year in ways that we haven't in many years, and maybe in the future. I think that is a singular discovery that lit up the world. And I've heard that sound, that sort of translation sound of those 2 black holes colliding, and it sounds sort of mundane in some ways, but I think it might be one of the most beautiful sounds that we've ever heard in all of science.
Awesome.
All right. From there, it's hard to talk about a couple other stories, but there are 2. And Jeremy, the third one's for you, but the second one has to be, you want fathom a guess, Norm, before I go to it?
The second favorite science story of the year.
And it's not the parrot with the goggles, which should be on my list.
Yep. It's not that fisherman who has all those ugly sea creatures that he's Instagramming.
No.
It's not that. It's pretty amazing. Come on. What is it? Is it Curiosity?
No, it's that the closest star to the sun has a planet around it. It's Proxima b. So even 4 light years away, there's planets in that system. And the fact that we found it and we're able to take a look at it, and I think that's utterly fascinating, that there's so many planets out there, that even the closest star to our sun has a planet around it, and we're able to see it, is an amazing achievement. My bonus story before I get to my third one is the fact that we saw the first human trial of CRISPR in China, and I think that is going to be the biggest story of 2017. So that, spoiler alert, but the third one is for Jeremy, and that involves 2 words. It involves a name. Lee Sedol. That,
you like that? Yeah.
Wow.
Go
How
champion.
can we not talk about Go and the achievement, the AI just trouncing Lee Sedol in the Go championship?
StarCraft is the next frontier.
You stayed up like all night one night watching
I don't know if I
match
stayed
live.
up all night. I did watch 5 hours of Go though, and that was I learned more about Go than I ever knew before. And that's, I mean, I didn't know anything about Go before, so that's easy. But I learned a lot, and I thought that was really, really interesting, especially to watch these Go aficionados respond to what was happening, because that gave it real perspective that this was something that was actually quite important in the history of artificial intelligence.
Yeah, and now, like Norm said, StarCraft 2 is the natural evolution of that.
That's right.
I might have the sound of two black holes colliding queued up here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yep, that's it.
That's it?
That's it.
Whoop. That's so techno. Wow.
Has that been sampled yet?
Hey, what's up, guy?
Yeah,
I'm sure. The "Hey, what's up, guy" I like at the end of that.
All right.
I have one last question before we go.
This is
into
the
our
ultimate
final segment.
The ultimate best of the year.
No, it's not the ultimate best of the year. What are you hoping for in 2017?
Oh. Ooh. That it's better than 2016. We lost Jeremy.
No, I'm thinking.
He's thinking.
It's just that the things that I was looking forward to this year were probably, they were all VR related.
Yeah.
But the things that excited me, like the AlphaGo accomplishment, and I don't know. It seems like a lot of these things are unexpected. I don't see them coming. So I don't know. I'm just excited for another year. We'll see what happens.
I really want to see home AI take the next step. I mean, I think what we saw with Echo and Google Home and Google Assistant, and even to a certain extent, how Siri's gotten magically better, even though we pan it. I think how that's going to integrate with our lives, we've seen a huge leap. I mean, Echo was in your favorite things of 2015,
That's right.
Jeremy.
Yeah.
And how it's like so integrated into my family's life right now. Like my son talks to Alexa every day. So where we go from there, I'm really excited for that frontier of hands-free AI integration into my life.
I don't think that's going to be next year, though. I think that's maybe expecting too much of it too soon. The trajectory is there, but I don't think it's next year.
I don't mean to sound pessimistic either, but I feel like that Echo did such a great job coming out that with their hardware advances, allowing you to talk to it from anywhere within the room, being always on. That was something that just nobody had done from a hardware standpoint. That I feel like we now see that it's been out for so long that we aren't talking to it as if it's any more intelligent than it really was to begin with. And I'm really looking forward to more advances in AI, where we really start to cross that line, that the Turing test, and I want to be able to pass. I want the computer to pass that sooner rather than later. But I don't know how soon that's going to be, sadly.
I mean, we couldn't fathom cars driving themselves down our streets a year ago.
That might be it. That might be the big
technology thing.
2017.
Yeah, autopilot. Yeah. Favorite product?
Not just autopilot. That when you hop in an Uber, it's just going to drive itself.
Yeah,
I think we're a long way from that, but still.
Yep, I think both of those technologies.
I don't know about that.
Self-driving cars.
I think it might be this year.
And AI. I think we're expecting too much. We've reached that initial hump where it seems like there's something there, but there's still, like many technologies, a long way to go. I hope they see something interesting with computer vision. Maybe not augmented reality, but some type of interesting computer vision thing that we haven't seen yet. I know we're not doing a lot of news this week, but the people who do that scanner, the room scanner for the iPad accessory, what's the name of it? They just announced a VR AR accessor app where you plug into your phone and you can do some interesting stuff with computer vision. But yeah, that's my hope for it.
Yep.
Jeremy, anything you're hoping for?
No. I think you nailed it with the self-driving cars. I wouldn't be surprised if the Model 3 has more capabilities than we've been told, and that's, if that comes out next year as planned, I think that could be very interesting.
Awesome. I can't wait for you to give me a ride in the Bolt.
Oh, me too.
When is that coming?
Well, 3 people got theirs delivered in Fremont, and besides that, according to my dealer, no one else has gotten the car. But every dealership, I guess most dealerships anyway in California, have received one Bolt that they have to keep on lot for out of 4 or 5 months, and it's just for giving test drives. And so if you really want to see one, you can go to a Chevy dealer and check it out. But customers should start receiving their cars next week or in early January.
We only have 1 segment left.
Yeah, it's under here somewhere.
The VR Minute. Virtual reality this week.
So what do you guys think of VR? It's a fad, right?
I mean, if you were to tell us in 2012 that at the end of 2016 we would be podcasting in virtual reality, I would not have imagined this.
Really? Yeah, I don't know. It's doesn't seem that far-fetched to me, but it's certainly cool. This app has done a great job of exploring the possibilities. Big screen.
Yeah.
I after the false start of this year with consumer VR, with how bad the Rift launch was, and even some of the there were some issues people had with the Vive too. I feel like we've gotten to this place where I'm still blown away every time I put the headset on. And I can't remember the feeling of a product that I've used where I still have a little bit of wonder every time I use it. And every time I try something new, like I don't feel that way. I don't recall feeling that way about my laptop the first time I got one. So
where you want to use it because it's so amazing, even though it wasn't that great. In this case, it is great.
I just don't know what to expect. And every time I'm sort of surprised. Like we did a social VR experience last night. We played Rec Room.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And which is, kind of an interesting, social VR experience. And we're playing paintball. Actually, we're playing disc golf. And that was actually really fun.
I really enjoyed that.
So I'm constantly surprised by VR. And I can't remember a technology where it was like that.
The first multiplayer consoles. It reminded me a lot of playing
first multiplayer consoles. Come on, those were old for PC gamer standards, right?
Well,
we were doing multiplayer games in the 90s, long before the consoles could do it.
The social aspect of playing something like GoldenEye, for example, or even SNES Mario Kart, being in the same room.
You mean split screen stuff?
Split screen, yeah. It felt like that, where it wasn't perfect, but the social aspect really outweighed any of the technical hurdles for the system. Yeah, really, really enjoying it.
Yeah, it's definitely I don't know. It's a weird mix of things because it's still you gotta suit up to like get in the VR, and that's like the drag aspect of it. But it is so different than anything else that's come before it that I keep suiting up.
So we've been in this for, let's say, an hour and 13 minutes. Actually, much longer than that because we're tweaking some stuff before we actually started recording. How comfortable are you after an hour and a half in this?
And I'm standing. I've been standing this whole time.
Oh, really?
Desk. Yeah.
Could have fooled me.
Interesting. One thing I like about the Rift is that it is the most comfortable of the headsets, and so I can appreciate that. I don't know if I'm as comfortable as I would be if I didn't have to wear a headset. I don't know, but the payoff is so much greater than 3D glasses would be. Like if I were in a movie theater, I hate wearing 3D glasses in movie theaters because it feels unnatural to me. But and I don't find the payoff to be worth it. Whereas this is much more cumbersome, and the payoff is worth it.
I thought you were going to be in the Vive tonight. You changed your mind?
No, I just because I got the software working up here, I just figured I'd stick to the Oculus.
Oh, got it.
To the Rift. People hate it when I say the Oculus.
I have noticed after spending increasingly more time in the Rift these days that Yes, ergonomically, I still love it. It's still not as comfortable, I think, as PSVR. I still get a little bit of a indentation in the top of my forehead, and I can feel that pressure. It's not bothering me actively, but if I think about it, then I realize it's there. So yeah, I mean, we were talking about this earlier, how when we were playing games, you were wishing for a wider field of view, right? You were like, you really want wider field of view, and 9 months ago, when we were reviewing these for the first time, we're like, we don't care about the field of view is good enough, and the content really compensates for that, being immersed in the content. And I think we've lived with these long enough now that we can ask for more things. We can ask. I really wish we had a little bit of a lighter headset. I wish that we had wider field of view. I wish we had higher pixel density when we're doing things like in big screen and we're sharing desktops and we want to be able to look at someone who's to the left of me and the right of me and the screen, and wearing it for hours at a time. Like it's good. We can see the roadmap going forward of where it needs to be.
Do you ever wonder what the impact of having a screen this close to your face will be over a long period of time?
Nope.
I find
nope.
I do think about it, but I'm much more concerned for children that put these on because they're not because the screen is closed, but because the lenses are designed for a wider IPD.
Yeah.
And so I don't let my daughter, my 6-year-old, use it at all. I let my son use it once a week, just because their heads aren't fully developed yet.
Fair enough.
There's a little bit of news we could dive into. Jimmy Fallon actually has a VR segment that they do now.
Oh.
Did you see this?
No.
Oh, it wasn't just a one-time thing?
Well, I think that according to
it's VR Pictionary.
Well, we're going to need partners, and we found a couple of good ones joining my team. He's currently starring in Falsettos on Broadway. Please welcome.
Jump ahead.
Wow.
It's basically
what number? Pick a number.
What do we know they're using?
It's Tilt Brush.
It's Tilt Brush.
Is it Tilt Brush? It's custom.
There's a person, place, or animal.
It's got to be.
Person, place, or animal.
Yeah, just for Andrew.
That's very vague.
I think person.
It's with the vibe.
Person, place, or animal.
Okay.
Are you ready for this?
That's
Here we go.
Tilt Brush.
Yeah. That's Tilt Brush.
Oh,
for
you're
sure.
right. It's totally Tilt Brush.
It's an egg. It's a candle. It's a.
That's interesting.
It's a quill. It's a.
Hey, that's not bad.
It's
funny that he said quill because quill
it's
is
a person who's
the
singing.
drawing app for.
That's the.
It's a person who's singing.
Yeah, that's funny.
It's a snake charmer. Yes.
That's great.
I
like
there
that.
You go. I mean, it's seriously pop culture now.
Yeah. Huh.
Thanks, Road to VR, for bringing me that piece of news.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, that's the only big piece of news.
There's
one game.
Yep.
There's one game called Racket NX that has finally announced that they're going to release an early access version on Steam within the next month.
Mm-hmm.
That's an excellent racquetball game that people should check out.
Yeah, you talked about that like a month ago.
What I'm really excited for, and I'll amend to things I'm looking forward to in 2017, which is Lone Echo in terms of games.
Oh,
God, can't wait.
Heck yeah.
But related to content, I'm really excited that we're getting to a point where I can look at the Steam VR store and the Oculus Home store, and it's full. Like, I can't keep track and play everything because there's new stuff every other time I log on. And I hope the pace keeps up. I know it can't possibly be 50 games every month, but we're gonna get to a point where it's gonna feel like a much bigger ecosystem than any community can feel like it owns, and I'm excited for that.
Yeah. I mean, we're still got a chicken and egg problem. I mean, we need more consoles out there for devs to justify the time spent on development for major AAA games, but we'll get there. We'll get there slowly.
As long as leadership like Zuckerberg are talking about VR in such a positive way, I'm still very net positive about where we're going.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope that Zuckerberg continues to maintain his interest. I don't know how quickly he hopes to turn a profit. I'm hoping that he's as patient as he needs to be.
Yeah. So normally we have what we've been testing, but I mean, for end of year, are you testing anything that anyone wants to talk about, or should we just skip it?
Let's skip it. We probably will do a podcast before heading out to CES, and that it will be the first week of the year. But I do want to call attention. Joey did a wonderful review of the Blackmagic Micro cinema cameras, and you can find that on the site and on YouTube. It goes really in depth on these cameras that we used this past year in a bunch of on-location productions and even at the office for builds. So really fun there. But yeah.
Premium members saw the return of Lego with Friends with Simone and Adam, which was a lot of fun.
Yep.
That's a great watch if you haven't watched it yet. The Lion King puppets was excellent. I like that video a lot. And what else is coming up before the end of the year? You have a lot of videos come in the hopper,
goodness.
Right?
We actually later this morning we'll have another one-day build that Michael does with a special, or Adam does with a special guest, Michael Stevens, Vsauce. So I gave that away. But you can look forward to that. And we actually have more from his trip to the White House and all of our favorite things videos going up next week. So lots of content even between Christmas and New Year's. And then I think I can say that in the first week of the year, we will be putting out our Weta visit content. So you'll be able to see that on the site as well.
Excellent. Excellent. I got to say, just to wrap up, I think this is our first full year we've done this podcast together.
The three of us.
Substitutes here and there. But I got to
five.
say, high five. Oh, crap, that's my wall. That's my real wall in the way.
Any notable VR injuries?
Collateral damage? I close hurt myself in a game the other night, but nothing during this podcast. This is pretty low impact.
Okay. All right.
Tell us what you think of us trying out this podcast. This is a big experiment.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear what you think and what the experience was like watching it.
I know. And for people listening, we did record audio of this just with our headsets. We didn't use our standard podcast mics. Apologize for any other desktop sounds that may have popped in on my computer while we were recording, and any other environmental sounds like a dog barking. We're gonna get through this.
We have an outro this week. Who's it from? Oh, we can read the name.
Hi there, I didn't see you.
That's it.
USB.
Can you get them out? I want to see. Can you grab your dongles?
No, don't grab your dongles.
I just want to hold your dongles.
Oh my goodness.
That's it.
That was from Justin, aka Speed.
Did we use that last week?
I don't know, maybe. Kishore's standing up. He's walking away. He's walking away.
I was standing up. I was standing up to dance.
Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year.
Happy
Have
New
a great
Year.
holiday, and we'll see you in 2017 from VR. Woo.
Bye.
What you should have done is play the toilet flushing sound at the end of that. Like stand up and play a toilet flushing sound.
Oh, like that's where you did the show.
Yeah,
from?
exactly. Finally flushing toilet.
Somebody's got to light a match in here.